The purpose of this video is to provide our annual training on Section 504. What is Section 504? The Rehabilitation Act of 1973, Section 504, is a civil rights law that prohibits agencies that receive federal funding from discriminating against persons with disabilities on the basis of a disability. What is the purpose of Section 504? The main purpose is to level the playing field for students with disabilities. This is typically accomplished by providing appropriate classroom accommodations to eligible disabled students. Section 504 also requires that eligible students are afforded an equal opportunity to participate in school extracurricular and non-academic activities. Section 504 is a non-discrimination statute. The results of the disability must be the student is unable to achieve equal access or benefit from the school's program and activities as compared to a non-disabled peer. The existence of a physical or mental impairment does not mean that the child automatically qualifies under Section 504. There are 4 questions answered by the 504 committee to determine eligibility. 1. Does the student have a physical or mental impairment? 2. Does the impairment affect a major life activity? 3. Does the impairment substantially limit the identified major life activity? 4. Does the student need a Section 504 medical emergency plan or other services to support his or her educational needs? What is meant by the phrase substantial limitation? This phrase is to be defined by the 504 committee based on review of data. This will vary based on the individual's needs. Data should be considered without regard to the effects of mitigating measures such as medication, medical supplies, equipment or appliances, low vision devices, which do not include ordinary eyeglasses or contact lenses, prosthetics including limbs and devices, hearing aids and cochlear implants or other implantable hearing devices, mobility devices or oxygen therapy equipment and supplies, use of assistive technology, reasonable accommodations or auxiliary aids or services, or learned behavioral or adaptive neurological modifications. What is the Section 504 referral and eligibility process? First, the referral is initiated. Referral data is gathered and parent or guardian consent is received. Next, evaluation information is gathered or conducted to determine eligibility. Then a Section 504 committee meeting is called to determine eligibility. Next, a Section 504 plan is created if a student is eligible and supports are needed. Lastly, an annual or 3-year evaluation is conducted to determine needs and services and/or eligibility. What information is needed to conduct a Section 504 evaluation? The following chart shows the information needed for a physical or mental impairment. Once an eligibility has been determined by a committee, the student may be Section 504 eligible or Section 504 plan eligible. Under Section 504 eligibility, the student receives legal protection only, and there is no need for a plan. For example, a student is eligible for Section 504 because of dyslexia. The student has completed the dyslexia program successfully and no longer requires services and supports. This student meets Section 504 eligibility, but no plan is needed. Under Section 504 plan eligibility, the student receives legal protection, and plans are created for medical needs, additional services, or an individual plan to support classroom instruction. For example, a student is eligible for Section 504 because of ADHD. The committee has determined through the documentation the teachers are making ongoing accommodations to help the student with the curricula. The committee determines a plan is needed for the student to be successful in their classes. This student meets Section 504 eligibility with a plan. Accommodations. What are appropriate accommodations? The accommodations must address the student's identified disability. The accommodations must be specific to the student's disability. How much extra time on tests, on homework do they need? The accommodations can include behavior intervention plans, individual health plans, and other services if the plan is needed for the child to receive a free and appropriate education. Accommodations do not alter the content of the curriculum, give students an unfair advantage, change what a test measures. Accommodations do level the playing field between the student with a disability and those who do not have a disability. Section 504 plans should be reviewed by the committee based on the individual needs of the student, but must be reviewed every 3 years. A Section 504 plan should also be reviewed when the following occurs: numerous discipline incidents, retention is considered, new information is collected that affects the student's instructional program, circumstances change and eligibility is in question, a student fails classes for 2 consecutive grading periods, accommodations are no longer needed, a student moves from an educational setting or level to another, or excessive absences occur. A student under Section 504 must be evaluated regularly. Conducting the evaluation in accordance with IDEA every 3 years is in compliance with Section 504. An evaluation must also be conducted prior to a significant change in placement. For example, moving from elementary school to middle school. A new evaluation must also be completed when a new impairment is discovered. How do I know if I have a student who has been identified for Section 504? You will receive 504 accommodation plans and/or medical emergency plans for the students in your class. You will be asked to sign that you have received them. What do I bring to a Section 504 meeting? If you are invited to a Section 504 meeting for a student, you are part of the decision-making committee. Please bring information on how the student is doing in your class and any accommodations you are making to instruction for the student. If you are not attending, please make sure to submit your input form to your campus counselor. You are the best source to determine what the average student is doing in class and how to level the playing field for the student being discussed. Does Section 504 pertain to extracurricular and non-academic activities? Yes, if the impairment substantially limits one or more major life activity, and the impairment can have accommodations for the student to participate in extracurricular and non-academic activities, the accommodations must be followed set by the committee.
Please feel free to contact anyone on this list with any questions.